think of being connected in a very broad way. Think about that visibility to the data that you need, connected to your partners, connected to your suppliers, connecting to your clients in new ways, connected to your products, connected to your manufacturing floor. You know, there's lots of ways to be connected. Think about how you personally are connected. That smartphone of yours, right? You are so connected to the world around you. Our supply chains need to be that connected. We've got to have access to that information that we need when we need it, right there in the palm of our hands. Think about that. Okay, so lots of ways to connect. The one I'll highlight here is IoT. And I think this crowd is pretty well educated. IoT's been around for a while. We're starting to do some very cool things with it. And we'll touch on this one briefly, but I think of IoT as, if there's a data point out there that you want, give that data point a voice. Let it talk to you. Give it an IoT device, right? There's no data point out there that you can't go get using IoT. So, a couple of things that IBM is doing with some large companies in the IoT. And all of these have externally available case study information if you want to look up any of them, because we can't go deep on every one as much as I would love to. But IBM and KONE, you know, KONE's problem was I install my escalator, elevator, whatever it is, people mover, and I go blind. I don't know how it's performing, how it is when it's in service. I sold it, it's not mine anymore, right? So they worked with IBM, worked with their contract so they can put IoT devices on the equipment, and now the equipment calls home. And so KONE is collecting all of that information coming off of their equipment. And once you have the data, again, give the data a voice. Once you have the data, you can start to understand how it's performing, how much it's being used, what the temperature ranges on particular equipment sets are, you know, all kinds of things, right? So they're collecting that data, they're doing better preventative maintenance scheduling, more efficient, they're doing, you know, all the way back to product design changes that they're making to improve, again, that experience. IBM and Honeywell have put together a solution called Building Sense, which is not about putting them on a product, but putting them all around a facility, right? And maybe a good example for some of you to have it in the pharma industry is really in your manufacturing facilities. Putting the IoT devices, or in the warehouses, right, where you've got inventory, things like that. Stationary IoT devices that are constantly collecting information that you can analyze. In retail, we can tell you, if you put out a sign and a display of a particular product at the head of aisle 3, and then the next day you change it for a different product, or the next week, we can tell you the difference in the traffic pattern in front of that display, right? A lot of companies now have an app on your smartphone where if you've agreed to share your location, they know the minute you enter the store. They know everywhere you go in the store. You might be standing in front of the diapers, and boom, you get a coupon. But we also do things like monitor the temperature of the facility, monitor you know, the electric doors and how many that they're opening and closing, and when to turn the fan on and off outside of the doors where all that air conditioning is escaping in the summertime, right? Tons of things you can do with IoT devices here. Again, all about eking out that next amount of efficiency. And then the last one here is put your IoT device on something that's moving around, right? And this one obviously hits home with all of you in terms of needing to track shipments, track product, and those kinds of things. And you can do this at the product level, you can do this at the box or the pallet or the container, the vessel, right? There's lots of different solutions. IoT devices come in all shapes and price tags, right? And they don't have to be constantly sending information. They can hit a download station and download all at once. If you don't, you need the data, but you don't need it in real time, right? So there's tons of different solutions you can do here. Our experience here with Quovola Innovation is, you know, the shipping corridor between the Helsinki harbor up into Eastern Europe is one of the most highly trafficked rail lines in the world because it's very heavy passenger and product, both. And the passengers always win. Always. If there's 2 trains and one gets to go and one has to wait, the passengers get to go. So it's just a very difficult area to schedule. So using those IoT devices, they're tracking all the movements of the containers, and they're doing a much better job. And it's all about managing expectation and managing schedules. Even if you're later, if you know you're going to be later, so much easier, right? So that's what they're doing here, and just huge innovation coming out of that group. So IoT, so many things you can do with it. Don't just think about tracking your shipments, which I know you're all already thinking. There's so much more you can do.